welcome back to my channel. I am your host, Bianca Williams. Thank you for tuning in. If you are new, welcome. Go ahead and subscribe. Check out some of the episodes. I am very happy to have you here. On my show, usually we are getting into things like self-growth tips. We are also having some amazing guests share wisdom, share their stories, just get into things that is just really, really helpful to know and exciting to hear. And so today's guest, I am very, very happy to have her here. This is Latoya Brooks. She is doing so many things. She's an educator. She wears a lot of hats, you guys, and she's very impressive if you watch her work. Like definitely, not somebody who's going to be just average, and she doesn't let the people around her fall behind. And so I am very, very happy to have her here, but I'm going to let her tell you some things about just what's going on. Toya, please help me share with the people who you are and all of the different things you have going on in your life.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Latoya Brooks. I am an educator, a performing arts educator specifically of over 20 years. I'm currently an elementary music specialist in Atlanta, Georgia, but I'm also an orchestra director at a local church. I am also a momager of three. I have three daughters who have found their way into the TV film industry as well as musical theater. All of them have had success in TV films specifically, so commercials, movies, TV movies, television shows, and web series. My oldest daughter has probably earned the most success in her career. She's currently 17, which is crazy. She's a senior
Oh
in high
my
school.
gosh.
I know. She has been a series regular on the reboot of All That on Nickelodeon. She's done some Disney projects, where she was in her first big movie, which is called Better Than Ever. She was also Harriet. In Harriet, she was also her niece. And she's just this is what she wants to do for the rest of her life. So she has written her own short film. She's released it on YouTube. Just a lot of success. And surprisingly, I didn't want any of them in the industry. I've heard so many horror stories about how people take advantage of kids, and
Mhm.
I am not the one to play with when it
She
comes
not.
to my kids. So I fought it for a while, but
Mhm.
the talent was there. You could tell she genuinely wanted to do it, and she would bounce back after all the no's. So I knew that it was something she really wanted to do. So when she graduates, she's going to go off to college and major in TV film production and filmmaking.
Wow.
My younger two, even though they do a little TV film, they do mostly theater.
Mm.
Both of them have been in multiple productions. So I get no time to myself. So it's either work for family, but I do try to squeeze in a little something for myself every now and then. But that's
Yeah.
me in a nutshell.
Wow. Very impressive. Absolutely. I definitely feel like your daughters are a representation of you and your husband or father. Like you guys are both in the entertainment world and the performing arts sector. And
Mhm.
so I love that, like being able to adjust to what they're wanting and just being really present in that. And
Mhm.
so, and I know today you guys are in for a treat because we're going to get into some of that, just being on that side of life and having children that are in the performing arts and entertainment space. But also we're going to be talking about Black love, which
That it?
I think is an amazing topic. I don't think we've ever talked about that on this
Oh,
podcast before. So this is a first. Thank you so much.
no problem.
I would love to just kind of get into what are your thoughts on the essential elements that form a foundation of a strong and healthy relationship in the Black community.
Um, so I'm sure there are a lot of things, but communication is the main thing. I hate that we just don't know how to communicate with each other anymore, especially now you could just type it, say whatever
Mhm.
you feel, and not have to worry about how it affects other people. People don't talk on the phone anymore, and they don't have to have a conversation. And so when we went to, my husband and I went to couples therapy or the what do you call it before you get married? When you have
Premarital counseling.
we had to do that. And the first thing he said was, "You got to be able to talk to each other."
Mhm.
So communication is the main element. I feel like it trumps everything else. If you can't talk to your partner, you're
Yeah.
just not going to be successful.
Yeah.
It's super important.
I agree. A lot of the work I do, I always talk about like there's three, like it's almost like a three-legged table, and communication is one of the legs. And
Mhm.
so, and on a three-legged table, one leg is weak or it's not working, then the table falls. And so, I love that communication is so key, and it would help resolve a lot of things or work through a lot of things. And so, figuring out
Yep.
what that looks like for you. And it's funny you say, you talk about people not talking on the phone. 'Cause I always say, dang, I'm so terrible today. Like, I never talk on the phone. I'm like that person that might have a few, I could count on one hand how many phone calls we might have in a year.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, I was always on the phone. Now that
All
you
the
say
time.
that, like, I would like sit in the kitchen with that phone that had a cord and just sit
Mhm.
there for like hours just
Yes.
talking. It
Yep.
was absolutely like the thing back then. And now I'm like, I can't even stand up, just do
I'd be like,
that.
"Please text me."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And some stuff I realized actually can just be like a 5 minute or a few minutes talk, and might take like a whole hour to text through it
Mhm.
and sort through the details and make sure you understand what the other person is saying. It's like, we just talk, we'll get right to it.
Yep.
But when you talk about communication, especially when we think about Black love, and there's just historical things that I feel like factor into just the breakdown of how we communicate. Um, for you, when you think about that, like how can couples work together to heal from generational and personal traumas that might affect their relationship?
Therapy. I I hate that therapy has been so taboo
Hmm.
in our community, and I feel like with me personally, I started therapy uh maybe like 3 or 4 years. Well, I have no sense of time. Okay, so if
Hmm.
I say 3 or 4 years, it could be like 5 or 6. After COVID, I have no sense of time whatsoever. But maybe
I
about three or
understand.
4 years ago, I started therapy, and I it was after like it was an act of desperation. Like
Hmm.
I don't feel happy. You know what I'm saying? Like I need to fix that.
Hmm.
And somebody suggested therapy, and now my therapist is my best friend. She won't claim me because she's not supposed to, but
Right, right.
I can't imagine not talking to her. Um, it changed my life completely, and I
Wow.
I talk differently. I see things differently now.
Hmm.
And so both my husband and I think he started first because he was a band director for a really long time. He just got promoted to an instructional coach position. But while he was a
Wow.
band director, um, he had a season where a lot of his former band students or current band students were either passing away or dealing with some really heavy mental health issues or something. And he was carrying that because that's what we do. Because all the children we teach become like our children. Um, and so you could just tell he wasn't happy. And I was like, "Well, you got to
Yeah.
talk to somebody. I don't know what to do because I don't know how to help you. So we got to get some help." So he went to therapy, and then I was like, well, I might as well sign up as well, because I feel the effects of what was going on at that time. It just changed how we communicate with each other um, completely.
Wow.
I push therapy to everybody.
Hmm.
Everybody I come in contact with, I'm like, therapy will change your life. Period. Everybody in the house, well, not right now, but everybody, all the girls were in therapy or have been in therapy at some point.
Yeah.
Um, and it doesn't feel like a negative thing. You know, when I was growing up, it's like, oh, you got a therapist? Oh boy, you must be crazy. You know,
Right.
nobody ever
Yeah.
talks about how if you get sick, you go to the doctor. You know,
Yeah.
if you break something, you got to go to a specialist to help you fix that. If you're mentally unhealthy, you got to go to somebody to help you with that. Um,
Right.
so I'm glad, and we are shifting as a Black
Hmm.
community. more now with social media, and therapy is just not a bad thing anymore. But I wish I would have brought up, can we go to therapy? Therapy,
Right. Yeah.
it was just so frowned upon. Like, suck it up. You're fine. Get over it. Ain't no crying, and push through. So yeah, therapy. I don't know, forgot the question. Therapy
Yeah.
is the answer.
It's healing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that answer. And I thought, first of all, congratulations on your journey. It sounds like it's been very powerful for you and your family. And I agree. I think that there are so many hidden things about therapy that people are not aware of. And yes, you can look up a lot of stuff on, YouTube or just Google it or whatever, but there's just a relationship that you learn how to have with yourself and with another person, and these foundational things. Like a lot of the things that come up in therapy are consistently like taught in therapy and then becomes regular and normal and all of those kind of things. But I want to mention, because you said this and I was like, you are so right. Like, when you're not well, right? When you're not well physically, you go to the doctor. What a lot of people don't understand about mental health is just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's
Mm-hmm.
not an issue. And a lot of what's going on in here affects everything. Like
Everything.
it affects your physical health. It affects
Yep.
your goals, your future, your perspective on the world. And most of what we do in therapy is dismantle the unhealthy stuff that you kind of was raised through or kind
Mm-hmm.
of inherited along the way because of just what society presented to you
Yep.
that was just toxic or just so I love that. It's almost like it's not new, it's not different. Like boundaries, everybody kind of generally understand it, but when you actually like really really incorporate that into your life and you're
They
like,
don't
oh my
understand.
gosh.
People take offense when you set boundaries for yourself. I've noticed that a whole lot lately. Um,
Hmm.
I was setting boundaries with my own children. Like, it used to be, which is something that was uncovered in therapy as well. But like,
Hmm.
um, my mom, single mom of 3, she's a nurse as well, so she worked long hours.
Wow.
So she couldn't always be there.
And you feeling
And
guilty.
my mom she's amazing. I'm grateful
Hmm.
for all the things, but I genuinely wanted her to be there. So now, you got a program, I'm there. You got a concert, I'm probably volunteering. You got something
Hmm.
else, I'm gonna be there. And my therapist was like, "It sounds like you're filling in what you were missing." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, you're right."
Yeah,
So
yeah.
uncovering things that you didn't even know about yourself, like it explains why I move the way I move
Hmm.
and how I am in relationships.
Yes.
Setting boundaries for my children now, because I mentioned earlier, I don't take time for myself. My whole life has been giving to other people. Because that's how I was raised. You give to
Right.
other
Yep.
people. You give of yourself to other people. And then get to your 40s, and somebody asked me, Aria is my oldest daughter. Aria,
Yeah.
um, you have a baby named Aria too, though.
Both of our older daughters are named our
Okay, I
older
was
daughters
like,
are named Aria.
I feel like you're not. Yeah. So she came to me. We were going into the new year. She was like, "Let's write a manifestation list of all the things we want for ourselves."
I love
And
that.
everything was on my list. Everything on my list was for somebody else. I was like,
Oh,
"Dog."
wow.
I was like, "I want Aria to experience this. I want Skylar this. I want my husband to. I want
Mhm.
my students. I want to have this." And nothing had to do with me. I was
Wow.
like, "Man." So it took that for me to see, like, you don't take the time for yourself. Self-care is extremely important. And you hear people talk about self-care, but it genuinely has rejuvenated me when I say, "No, I'm not going to be able to take you today because I'm gonna go get my nails done." Which
Yeah.
probably won't happen. But like, I'm still trying to get to that
Right
point.
now.
I'm trying to get to that point. This is my first time.
I need them done. It's been
Yeah,
like
this is my
weeks.
first time. Everybody was shocked. "You got your nails done?
They're
So
pretty. I
proud of
like the
you."
blue.
But yeah, people get offended when you set boundaries for yourself, but that ain't
Yes.
none of my business.
It's not.
It ain't
You're
none of my
right. It's
business.
not. And what you said speaks volumes because a lot of Black women, and
Mhm.
I would just say like people in the Black community in general are taught to um, see their value as what they do for others.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, unless we're doing something for others, then we're not doing enough.
Mm-hmm.
We're in some way made to feel guilty for that,
Yep.
and it's just so draining. Like you're constantly pouring into other things, and it's literally, I would say, literally shortens your life. It contributes to health issues. Like
Yep.
there's so much research on what that stress does to people over time, and so I'm proud of you. You found this
Thank you.
awakening and being able to be aware, because I think that's a huge piece of therapy too, is the insight that you get to develop, because you're like, this is a good list. And then
Yeah.
you're like, wait a minute. Also, this is not for me, right? Like this list is
Yep.
not reflective of what I want. Um,
Yep.
and I could go, I mean, I really could talk about this all day,
Yeah. Facts. I
but
feel the same way.
I'll say this and then, but a lot of times the things that we are kind of putting out there for other people is work that actually ends up being things we need to put into ourselves or address with ourselves, especially our younger self, like that inner child version of us. Like when we're trying to show up for all of these other people, the stuff we're trying to give to them are things that version of us has missed, or that
Mm-hmm.
version of us wants to get positive feedback around. And
Yep.
it's like, let's recircle that and bring that back in, because there's something you're wanting to get from that. But a lot of times, yes, you get some of it back with the work you do with other people, but it's never quite, it's like a hole that never closes up all the way. So
Mm-hmm.
you're always kind of trying to put more into
Feel it.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I do, the more I feel. And it's still that part of you that's like, I need to find a way to feel that. And so I always say, like, bring it back in, when you give and give and give it to other people,
Yep.
that's coming from another place, right? I love that though. Like you just recognizing that and saying that.
Yeah.
Um, and you talked a lot about, your children and even setting boundaries with them. How how would you say like being in a strong and loving relationship impacts the way Black couples raise their children?
Uh, um. Yeah. It's funny. Um. Aria asked me. It might have been a year ago, but it might have been a couple of months ago.
Mhm.
She asked me a while ago. Do you and Daddy ever argue? I was like, you know what? No, I don't think we do. And we
Oh
sat down and
no.
had a conversation. Like, yeah, Aria asked if we argue. She was like, I've never heard you argue. Do y'all even get mad at each other? I was like, for sure. Yeah, we definitely get
Mhm.
mad at each other. But we also, it goes back to communication. We also know how to talk to each other. So if I get mad at him for not doing something, I'm probably not going, he's going to know I'm mad because I'm not going to say anything in that moment because I need the time to process what I want to say or how I want to say it because I would
Yeah.
never want something to come out and be disrespectful. Um,
Yeah.
so taking a moment, I'm all over the place. I was doing a leadership camp recently and I was telling the girls the same thing. You get to take a moment. You don't have to respond right away. Because most of the
Yeah.
time when you respond right away, you're responding out of emotion.
Mhm.
And then you don't want to have to come back and be like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean what I said. Because the damage has already been done. When I crumple up
Yeah.
the paper, I can't straighten that back out. You've
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
done your damage. So we have since the very beginning. I don't think we've ever truly argued. We've never raised our voice at each other. Um, we are very affectionate, and we show that
Oh
in
my
front of the
God.
girls.
Yeah.
So they're very affectionate. We don't leave each other without a hug or a kiss or something. It's a little different now that Ari is in high school because she goes to school much later than I have to go to work, so I don't see her in the mornings. But we talk about our day. Everybody always asks, "How was your day today?" And now they
Mhm.
do the same thing. Um, they're a reflection of us, and I
Mhm.
know that seeing that consistently plays into how they treat other people too. Like
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
also see how we talk to each other, but also how we talk to other people. And then um, another generational thing that I feel like we're breaking is the fact that kids should stay in kids should always stay in a child's place. But like, I'm not gonna tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
You just gonna do it because I said it, and
Mhm.
that's it. Um, we have a tendency to sit everybody down. Like, let's say somebody broke a glass and didn't tell us. I don't know. It's a Cosby episode. That's crazy. I'm sorry. They did something wrong and didn't
Mhm.
tell us about it, and we found out. Um,
Right.
we do our best to talk to each other first. Like, how we gonna approach? How
Nice.
we gonna? Because she did it the last time, or this might be her first offense. Do we do? And we're
Right.
trying to get them in the habit of talking to us about everything so that even the tough stuff, so that when something bad happens, they're not trying to hide it or go
Mhm.
behind our backs or whatever. Um, so we do those things with each other. And I'll
Yeah.
I'll tell them, I was like, Daddy didn't take out the trash. That could cause ants. So I'm gonna have a talk with Daddy.
Yeah.
I said like, Daddy, you in trouble because Mama said you didn't take out and then he'll be like, I'll tell Mom I'm sorry, or like they
Yeah.
see those things, so now that's their norm. I think it truly plays a part in the kind of people we want them to be. And
Mhm.
we've been um, very strategic in making sure that they're good people. Like
Yeah.
when Aria was in LA, and there were a lot of oh child, whole nother podcast episode, but there were a lot of things that were very difficult to deal with. But we made it very clear. I was like, at the end of the day, I don't care how famous you get, I don't care what show you're on, I don't care about any of that. You're going to be a good person, or you're
Yeah.
not going to do this anymore. You have to be a good person. Um, and some of the kids we just came in contact with, everybody is not raised well. Everybody's not raised the same, which is our phrase in the house. And they'd be like, "Well, my friend have
Right.
everybody ain't raised the same. They're just not raised the same." Doesn't mean that what they're doing is wrong. It just
Right.
means that
Yeah.
it don't. That's not how we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Um, so us setting an example or how we want them to be not just as people, but in their future relationships, which I don't even want to think about that, but like their future relationships, like this is what to expect. He
Mhm.
needs to talk to you a certain kind of way. He
Yeah.
better not ever put his hands on you. He needs to open the door for you when you get in the car. Don't you touch that door. You wait till daddy, those kind of things
Yeah.
are embedded in them now. So it makes a huge difference.
Wow. Um, Man, you said so many good things. It is so important for kids to see a healthy example of love in their homes.
Mhm.
Um, I watched the movie Inside Out 1 and 2, and
Oh,
I always like movies that get into really explaining, emotional health. The thing with kids is that every experience, because their brain is still developing specifically, but also because their emotional health is so fragile, every experience has a chance of being a core memory, as we,
mhm,
kind of saw in the movie. And those core memories get assigned to different feelings. And what sometimes people don't understand about childhood trauma specifically is that trauma is not life threatening for children. Trauma is we moved from this neighborhood to this neighborhood, and I don't know anybody. And the first day I went to that school, that girl bumped into me, and my stuff fell all over the floor, and everybody laughed at me. And it's like, sounds harmless.
yeah,
An adult will probably be like, okay, it happens,
pick it
pick
up.
it up. Kids will hold on to those memories and be like, I can never, I got to watch everything around me. I can never make a mistake type thing.
Mhm,
And I'm saying that as a loose example, but like you talk about like in your home being intentional about, how you guys communicate
mhm,
and being able to respond versus react. I was just talking about that on a reel, like, responding is reflecting and processing what you want to do before you just react, not feeling like you got to say something right in the moment.
mhm,
I almost recommend, if you can avoid it, if you can, possibly, get around it, almost don't ever say anything in the moment. Let yourself think about it, even if it's just for a few minutes.
yep,
Unless you're in danger, right? If you're in danger,
yeah,
respond. But like, don't feel pressured to have an answer because
mhm,
once you think about it, you may not feel the same way. Um, you also you also mentioned, just wanting them to have a solid value system and being able to align how they move through life with that value system. and you guys being a part of, you and your husband being a part of instilling some core values in them based on how you guys run your household, how you operate as a family. And so I love that. I love that for you. Um, and love that for your girls, because you're going to see the outcomes of that one day. Like, oh my gosh, because we did this, they're doing that. Because we didn't do this, this is something they kind of move away from.
Yeah.
And that was the point, right? That's the goal. And it's usually harder on us, as adults, because the
Yeah.
work we have to do to be able to show up in this way. Like, I got to do some work. I got to, sort through me so I can be
Yeah.
able to be this presentation, this
Yeah.
example, and model all of these different things. And so
Yeah.
I love that.
It's
Now,
funny that you brought up Inside Out too. I use that to talk to my students, especially I K through 5. Every single class we've talked about Inside Out.
mhm,
Um, but I'm really transparent with them, which a lot of adults aren't with kids because
mhm,
they feel like, I don't feel like kids are respected
right.
enough to
I
treat
agree.
them like, they don't know what I'm talking about anyway. They do.
Yes, they
Um,
do. Yep.
but the other day, um, something happened at work and I was upset. And I was like, I just wanted to tell you, it's not you. Miss Brooks is not upset with you. Remember how with Riley, there was anger and sadness was pressing all the buttons, right? Turning
I
everything
love
blue.
sadness.
Honey, I was like, a good cry is necessary. But yeah,
Mhm,
I feel like it's one of the best movies. I was
mhm.
so happy to watch it and see them put all of those big thoughts and feelings into something that kids could understand. And so
Yes.
that is my go-to now. That's how I explain. I was like, yeah, joy is in there, but she can't control anger right now.
Yes.
So I'm
Yes.
trying to make sure that Miss Brooks, blah, 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 it has nothing to do with you. And they understand that.
Mhm.
Same thing with our girls. Like they understand. Kai the other day was like, Mommy, you're right. Sometimes it just helps to get out a good cry. It's like, look at
What?
you, mentally and emotionally stable. I like it, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sorry to shift that, but
No, that was
Inside
good.
Out is a
I
beautiful.
mean, when I first watched Inside Out 10 years ago, or when it came out, I remember Love and Joy. I was like, oh my gosh, she just kind of helps make sure this
Mhm,
ship is running smooth, this, that, and the other. And didn't watch it, maybe watched it once or something, but didn't really watch it again with the new lens and all the experience in life, I lived until the new one was about to come out. I was like, let me watch one so I can get ready
mhm.
for two, because you know how it is. You're like, what is the
Yep,
first story about
yep,
again? And then I realized I really like sadness. And it's not because, I want to feel sad or I'm saying you should feel sad. I like the message and how they said, acknowledge all your feelings. They're all valuable. They're all important. And there's a balancing act with those feelings. If you force yourself to only feel joy and try to deny this,
mhm,
first of all, I don't know if you remember how it ended, but um, the core memory that was assigned to joy ended up being assigned to both sadness and joy by the end,
mhm,
because she moved, and when she would remember
mhm.
those, she would feel sad. And so, like, the goal is not to just be like, don't feel sad.
Yep,
Sometimes you're just gonna feel sad, and that's
yeah,
okay. And I think you want to be okay with that, understand why, understand, who you are in those spaces, so you can be able to be well rounded and navigate the world in a healthier space. Because when you don't acknowledge it, it's gonna come out. It's just gonna come out in the way you may not want it to, or
mhm,
in the way you didn't expect. And
yep,
so acknowledging it allows you to deal with it, the actual emotion that you're feeling, and, process that and not feel ashamed of it. So
yep,
I just love so much about the way they explain that and made it kid friendly. I was like,
I agree.
us adults have to hear that too.
Yeah, I
Now,
agree.
you and your husband, y'all are like powerhouses in the sense y'all got these kids out here doing all of this great work. And I'm gonna tell you, my kids just signed up for volleyball, and I looked at that practice schedule, and I'm like, they really gonna have me driving 4 days a week, like randomly 6 times a day for no reason. Like, it feels like that because
Yeah,
their schedules are at different times. They're not
mhm,
right after school like my schedules used to be. I gotta go home, take one of
yep,
this, then come back. Like, So I'm like, oh my gosh, the fact that y'all are doing that with 3 girls, and then y'all are, y'all have y'all careers. Like, it's not like y'all just like, okay, one of us gonna just deal with the kids. No, y'all like, nope, we got things that we're doing that's
Yeah.
important to us. How do you guys celebrate love and maintain romance in all of that, all of those daily life events, wearing all those hats?
Yeah. So with now that he's shifted to another position, his flexibility is so much better, which I'm grateful for. When he was a high school band director, a high school band is like
Mm,
just all night at practice or Friday games or Saturday away trips, and um we try to love on each other every day. Like I said, we can't leave the house without a hug or a kiss. We can't leave the house without, or when we see each other for the first time, there's a hug or something. Um, but what we started doing, we've kind of fallen off a little bit, but we also show each other grace. Every month, somebody takes a month, and that you have to come up with something we could do together.
mhm,
Um, and sometimes it happens organically, and nobody strategically tried to schedule something. It's just like, oh, well, look, this is happening this month. This will be our thing. So we try to have like we'll go to a concert, or I did this planning meeting going into the new year. I was like, I want to plan out the first 6 months of the year, and we're gonna sit down. I
oh,
sent him
that's nice.
a little calendar invite, and I was like, you have to be here this time. I'm dropping the girls off. Ari will be gone. Blah blah blah. And then we ordered our food from our favorite restaurant. We,
Ooh,
had like the soft music playing, and we were talking about like business at first, like what are we
yeah,
going to spend this money on? How, let's talk about the schedule. What trips are we planning to take? The important things.
mhm,
And then we kicked it and watched a movie or something afterwards. Um,
nice.
so like he, he's he's literally my best friend. I know a lot of people say that. He's literally my
Mhm,
best friend. So me sitting down talking about my day, laying with him is enough for me. Like, and I know as I get older, he mentioned it the other day, like my love languages have changed
mhm,
because of our situation, or because girls are older, or because of the time that we have. But like it used to be, I used to be and I'm still kind of like the physical touch thing. That used to be a big deal to me. Hug me, okay?
yeah,
I need you to do that regularly. But now I think it's acts of service because there's so much going
acts of
on.
service, I love
Um,
that.
I It's so much going on. Like you said, everybody's practices are at different times, and then
Mhm,
you got to pick one kid up from here. You got to take it over here. People used to ask like, how did you manage all of that at the same time with them doing auditions and then them doing commercials? And
mhm.
I was like, I don't know. I know, looking back, I could tell you what was happening, but in the moment, I didn't know how those things were gonna work out.
Yeah,
I never knew like financially how it would work out. I didn't know who was gonna take who where, but it all worked out every single time. That's how
mhm,
I knew what we were doing was supposed to be happening.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, we find time, or we end up making time when the time is not there.
yeah,
And that time could be something as simple as we gonna go, um, for our anniversary. I got like an Airbnb that was like 15 minutes from the house, and we
nice.
just watched movies or whatever. Um, so making the time for each other, and
Yeah,
it can get away from you, because even when you try to be like, no, we gonna do this, it doesn't change the fact that the girls still have to be taken somewhere. The girls
yeah,
still need you to. And like I mentioned, we're a very um lovey-dovey family.
mhm,
So they gotta be up under you all the time. Like,
mhm.
where you going? I'm just
Yep,
going to the bathroom, relax, you know. Or
my
like the
son.
other day we had to have a sleepover on the couch because they wanted to sleep with us, and I was like, you're not sleeping in the bed. Um, y'all way too old for that. I mean, not too old, but like we
Yeah,
don't have
yeah.
that
It ain't
space.
enough room in there.
It ain't enough
Yeah,
space. It's a lot of y'all. So we had to. sleep on it because somebody took one section, somebody took another, and we were all in here. So
That's cute.
just making time for those things. Also, I am an anal planner. I have to have a schedule. I have a planner that I carry around with me. It's a celebration when I get a new one. Everybody's like, I can't believe you're this obsessed with planners. Because I write everything down. If it's
Mhm.
not on the calendar, it is
Yep.
not happening. And so we have to put those things on the calendar. Dinner
Mhm.
with Bay or movies or
Yeah.
concert, I have to put it on the calendar. So once it's on the calendar, then it's official. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how we're just kind of making it up as we go along.
I think there's so much value in that, like how you explain that. I know some people are like, why gotta schedule time for this or schedule time for that. I have heard people like, devalue that. And I'm like, first of all, it's good for your brain health to not
Mhm.
just put this pressure on your brain to just keep up with everything.
Oh yeah.
But like nurturing relationships don't just happen, you get married and then everything just falls into place and works. No, you got to put time in
It's
that. And as
work.
life
Yeah.
shifts, first we're evolving as people, we're evolving as women, they're evolving as men. They're like people in relationships are always evolving. And so, and our lives are always evolving. I don't know about you, but when I was in the beginning of my marriage, I was not at the part of my career that I'm
Oh.
at now. And so there's been a lot of changes in that and how that looked. There was a point where I was traveling every month across the whole state. And
Mm.
several weeks I was like on the road. And so, and this was like, a good year of this. And so I'm like, you as you're evolving and all of that and things are changing in your world, you have to be intentional about putting that time into your relationship. And it looks different for everybody. I love the idea of doing a sleepover in the couch or, in another part of the house to where
Mhm.
everybody can enjoy that space and be comfortable and, just celebrate like that we are together.
Yeah.
So that's an idea, y'all, do a sleepover. But there are so many things. I love the idea of going and planning out family time together. I always say like having weekly check-ins or monthly check-ins are so good for couples because sometimes there's things to address that you don't know when the right time is to address that. And it just kind of boils up and comes out. And when you have those check-ins, it allows you to do that, but it also allows you to plan for things, try new things, maybe say like, this don't work for me, or let's adjust that a little bit. So
Yeah.
tweaking things, but just giving yourself opportunities to explore as a couple, as a family,
Mhm.
attention, dive attention into yourselves. I love that. That was
Yeah.
so, so good. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
Now, y'all, we're about to turn this conversation a little bit because
Oh.
we're getting into the second half. We're going to learn about how the kids in the industry thing works. And I mean, you've been doing this for a while. You have the Aria Brooks as your daughter who is navigating TV world, movie world. You about to have these other children about to be these theater stars, right? Like it's just the blossoming that's happening within your family is beautiful and amazing. And although it looked chaotic back then, I'm glad we're here because we can have these
Yeah.
conversations and you could say, oh my gosh, all that hard work is paying off.
Yeah. It did.
So can we share with the people how did you get your child and your children into the performing arts industry and just the performing world in general? And what inspired that journey?
Well, like I mentioned, I fought it. Um, Aria has always been a performer, always sings, dances, making up songs. That's just what she does. But I was the same way. So it looked normal to me. It didn't feel like you should be on TV. So, I, because, social media is now a thing, like me coming up, you don't get to see or you can't easily access that information.
Mhm.
So people would send me auditions, and somebody sent me an audition. They were like, does your kid want to be on Disney? And she had asked and asked, and I was like, I don't know. I'll try to figure it out. And I never did.
Yeah.
Somebody sent that audition. I was like, let me see what they're talking about. It turned out to be a scam. Um,
And there's a lot of them out there. Woo,
oh,
Lord,
it's
thank
so
you for
many.
saying that.
It's so many. because they know that people are desperate to get their
Mhm.
kids in the industry and they'll do whatever. But when we went to the audition, line wrapped around the building, and they show us all these videos about how you can be on Disney, and we know so and so, and blah blah blah. And we get up to the front, and they were just so mean to the children. As we were approaching the table, they were like, "Oh," told one girl or her mom, she's like, "Well, she has a lisp. You're gonna have to get that fixed before she can be successful in this industry." No, she's not tall enough, or he's not. And I was like, "Oh no, Arya, we gotta go. We got to go because I'm not gonna be able to be professional if she say the wrong thing to you."
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but luckily she was like, "Oh, she's so awesome. She's this. I want her to come back tomorrow." Boom. So Arya was excited. We get home and they call and was like, "Oh, when you come tomorrow, bring $3,000." I was like,
Come on now.
even if I had $3,000, I'm not about to give it to you.
Right. Thank
Um,
you.
and she was like, "Well, we take credit card as well." That no, no, this is
Yikes.
not for us. Thank you for the
Right.
opportunity, but no. So Arya cried and she cried and was like, "But why can't we?" I was like, "Do you have $3,000? Don't. So you might want to suck it up." I didn't say that, but I was like,
Mhm.
"I understand you're disappointed. If you don't want to do it, I get it. All right, and we can keep it pushing." And she came, she wiped her face and was like, "I want to try another one."
The first no, right? It sounded like the first no came from you. You was like, "Mm-mm." But you're right. It was like that's not how you get into the industry. Is
That's
paying three
not.
thousand
You don't
dollars to
pay
somebody
anybody.
to,
No,
yeah,
I I had that happen a couple times before we found her agent. Um, we went to another one. It wasn't boxed as a scam. Like
yeah,
the amount of money you had to pay was for pictures and such and the website maintenance and whatever. And I was like, $800 sounds better than 3,000, but I don't have that
still,
either. And I
right,
don't know why I have to pay you for pictures. I can go get pictures for blah blah blah. Um,
right,
so I had a friend of a friend who was like, "Yeah, tell your friend don't you don't pay anybody up front. People make their money. True agents or whatever, they make their money
mhm.
off of commission, so they have to do
Yes,
work."
the work they get for you, yes.
Absolutely. So luckily, I didn't pay that 800 either. And
Good
then
for you.
we sought out some other folks. Her and Skylar were signed to an agent that was like out of state or something, but nothing
Mhm,
was happening. We didn't pay any money. They scheduled a photo shoot for them to get pictures taken, and the pictures were cute. Now that I know what quality pictures look like, they probably weren't the best quality, but they were cute. Um,
yeah,
and eventually they both got signed. But before all of that, I was just kind of scouring casting websites like,
mhm,
"Oh, so and so is looking for somebody to play in this web series. So and so is looking for somebody to do this. There's an up and coming filmmaker in
mhm,
Atlanta who's looking for a little girl to play." So all of those things were happening and I was just submitting her for them. So that's how she got into the web series. Um, Saved in the
right,
City. That was her first booking, and both Skylar and Kai end up being in the seasons after her. Um,
wow,
so I, it was mostly me doing the research and kind of doing the work of trying to skim through who was valid and who wasn't. Um,
yeah,
and then going training. So she was already in like dance classes or musical theater classes. But then I started putting her in acting classes. And sometimes, if it's a really good acting class, those people who are leading the classes have connections and will be like, "Oh, I have this agent that's coming to observe the classes."
mhm,
So you get the connections that you start to make, they get to see you and go from there. Um, a lot of what Skylar's my middle daughter, a lot of the things that Skylar was able to do was because of Aria, which is funny.
nice,
Skylar got her bookings before Aria. Like Aria had been hustling. She like doing web series and all of these extra work, background work for, a few dollars and whatever. And she booked the web series and the director was like, we need somebody to play this character, but she's like 4 or 5. I was like, well, Skylar could
oh,
probably play. Boom, she in there. We were on another set, and they were like, "Yeah, the girl that we had, she can't do it anymore. She's like 5." So well, Skylar can. Boom, Skylar's in there, and so Skylar
Right.
started getting her booking through Aria, and eventually she booked her first major booking was a TV movie on TV1.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and this was before Aria, and
I
I,
used to love me some TV1 movies.
honey, honey, I don't have cable no more, so I
I
gotta
know,
see
I'm like,
what's
I'm
available.
gonna look for it now,
Um,
but
but it's actually on Tubi. Dinner for Two with Mac
okay.
Wiles and I forgot the other girl's name. But that was her first thing where she was in there like a real movie. She did a great job. Um,
Right.
and I love that Aria didn't feel any kind of. She was super happy for her. It didn't feel like, dog, I've been working hard, and you gonna book a movie, you know.
Oh, wow, that's
But they
good.
were very supportive of each other. Um, and then it kind of just I think it happened because we were very instrumental in what she would and would not do.
Mhm.
We met a lot of parents who were like, "You're supposed to go to everything. You're supposed to audition for everything because you don't know, you don't want to turn down anything, especially when you haven't booked anything." And I was like, "Well, she's not doing everything.
Right.
We're not about
Yeah.
to have her up here doing all kinds of stuff." And then Ari got to a point where she was like, "Well, mommy, I don't feel comfortable with this one
Mhm.
because it's a bad word in it, and it's not just hell or something that she might. They're like really, really bad." And I said, "Then we gonna turn it down." And that was kind of taboo with a lot of the parents that I come in contact with because they were like, "Well,
Wow.
you you haven't made it yet. You can't turn these things down." I was like, "And we can, and we're going to
Right.
continue to, because
Exactly.
going back to what we said earlier,
Mhm.
our goal is to make sure they're good people. The TV shows and the movies and all those things are bonuses. She got to be a good person first. Um,
Nice.
so we're not about to just do everything. Same thing, like I said with Nickelodeon, there were some things that transpired, and I was like, "Look, if this is affecting your mental health, we can go back to the house, okay?
Yeah.
We're not
Yeah.
about to sit here and do this just to be on TV if you're not happy." Um, and what's crazy is, I don't know if you've seen that documentary about Nickelodeon, and I was
Yes.
like, "We know those people. We know
Yeah.
those people. We've sat down and talked to those people." Had no idea. Now, granted, that
That
was
oh, wow.
that the guy that they were talking about wasn't around when we got there,
Right. That's good.
but a different set of challenges. People, like we talked about LA earlier, and how it's almost like a cold feeling. It feels like everybody is just trying to get
Yes.
above you, and there were people like adults who were willing to step on children so that
Mhm.
their children can, I was like, "Oh, we don't do that. We can't,
Mhm.
I can't function like that." Um, and then COVID happened. COVID happened. I know everybody's like, "Boo, COVID." COVID was such a blessing. It was such a blessing for our family
I
because
love yeah.
she was in LA. Um, I ended up having to come back because I had to go back to work. So my mom was out there. This is her first time away from me. She just wasn't happy. And then there were a lot of people who just weren't very nice.
Mhm.
Um, and when COVID happened and she had to come home, it was like a reboot or a reset. Um, she started doing her little Instagram show and meeting even more people. She did put a video out that kind of went viral, I guess, and Tabitha Brown saw it. Tabitha Brown started following her and did an interview with her,
Oh,
and it
wow.
it started to be the career that she wanted versus what people were telling her it had to be. Um, and I know a lot of people aren't gonna do that. Like I used to do like a little course for parents who
Mhm. I
wanted to get their
remember that.
kids in the industry. Um,
Yeah.
and a lot of the people by the first module were like, "Yeah, this is too much.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
way
A
too much."
lot
I was like,
goes
"Yeah,
into it.
yeah." It is a life altering thing. I had just got a new job in elementary school, um, and Aria booked the Nickelodeon thing. They were like, "Oh, you got to move out to LA in a couple of weeks."
Oh my gosh.
What do you mean? How are we going to do that?
Right.
Financially, we can't. Luckily, my principal
And
at the
that move
time,
is a move.
it's a move. It's a move. And people will talk about um, how much money is being made, which is why I'm glad Taraji P. Henson had talked about it before. And then it kind of sparked the conversation about what actors actually make. And especially
Mhm,
with that strike, it's like, do you realize we don't get any of that? It might say 120,000 for a movie.
mhm.
You not gonna see most of that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
10% go to this person, 15% go to this person.
Yep.
You gotta pay this for this. And as a child,
And then you're
15%
constantly having to
automatically.
travel. Yep.
Yeah. It and then the cost of living in California is crazy.
Oh my goodness.
So
Another just scam.
we we were literally struggling um to make those things happen. And financially it got to a point where I'm like, okay, Lord, you gotta tell me what you want me to do next, because this is not working. But it it's not for the weak, and it's not for people who genuinely don't want to do it. Like, there a lot of
Right.
parents want their kids in the industry. But if the
Right.
kid is not, I want to do it, I'm okay with the no's. Ari has gotten so many no's, especially as a dark skinned Black girl.
Mhm,
Um, the challenges that we had to go through at the beginning of her career, she told me, I don't like my skin.
mhm,
Um, I don't like the way I look. Because everybody, typically people don't tell you how you do in an audition,
mhm.
but people were coming back to her. She was amazing. Yo, she's a star. She's this, she's that, but then wouldn't book her. And then
Yeah.
most of the people that would get booked,
Word.
fair skinned Black girl. So she felt like, dog, is it me? And so we worked really hard to, girl, please. You weren't supposed to get that part. You weren't
Mhm.
supposed to get that part. Ain't no telling what you would have had to deal with. And we know that every single part she gets is because that's the part she was supposed to get.
Yeah.
The movie that she did on Disney Plus, it felt like it was her. Like, she didn't
Yeah.
have to play a role. The character was her. So it was so easy for her to play. And because of that, the director picked her for something else on Disney. You
Nice.
know what I'm saying? So I was like, you're going to succeed because you're a good person, because you're not going to accept anything just to say
Mhm,
you did. Um, it's going to happen because it's supposed to happen for you. And so now all the time they get auditions all the time.
mhm.
And so our goal is not to book the audition; it's to book the room. We want
Yeah.
everybody in that room to know your name, um, so they can remember you for something else. Like Skylar she submitted for The Lion King on Broadway.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and she didn't get it, but that casting director hit us
Mhm,
back and said, "Hey, Skylar auditioned a while ago. I want her to audition for another Broadway show."
mhm.
And so you are just simply trying to impress the people in the room,
Yeah.
um, and not be afraid to, like. She wasn't afraid to do background work. She's not
Yeah.
afraid to do the things that you don't get paid for. She's not
Mhm.
afraid because she genuinely enjoys her craft. So, um, I feel like that down to earth and everybody kind of keeping her level and understanding that if it's not for you, it it
Yeah.
ain't yours. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Just keep it pushing.
Mhm.
That's what's gotten us through this far. And now I'm so glad. I mean, I'm not glad that she's about to be 18, but I am glad that when she turns 18, set all of these we've established all these things, these values, um, like how to communicate with your team, how to send an email
Yeah.
properly, how to respond right away, how to turn down an audition if it's not really for you, and not being afraid to say no if it doesn't appeal to what you want to have in your career. Like, she is about to be 18, and typically they want you to be 18 and over and play younger. So
Mhm.
now they're calling her, "Oh, we want you to do
Yeah.
this and play this younger role." And she's like, "I don't wanna do, like, kiddie shows anymore. I wanna shift to the next thing." So, yeah, I know I'm
Mm.
rambling, but, like, that ultimately, it the career started from us just being not certain things are non-negotiable.
Yeah,
I'm not going to sacrifice my kid and her mental health um
that's good.
just to be on TV, and doing the research and not being afraid to put the work in, but also not following what everybody else is telling you it's supposed to be. Because it's like I said, there's so many parents who you can look at TikTok and see.
Mhm.
I'll let my kid do whatever if it gets views so I can get this money. And
Right, yeah,
I'm just not I can't do it. So that's how we
yeah.
got started.
I love that. You did so much just legwork with getting this done.
Yeah.
But I love your messages with like, being the power of saying no and choice and having choice. Like you don't have to just accept this just because you want this. When it's right for you, it's gonna be available to you.
Yep.
And it's, sometimes things happen and you just like, I don't even know how that happened. That's because it was
Mhm.
for you, right? And to your point, some of this stuff, like we hear the horror stories, some of this stuff is not, you probably, it was a blessing in disguise you did that no happened. But
Yep.
also some of these no's are just practice for when you get the yeses because we
Mhm.
just like everything's experience right now. And so getting into certain rooms, meeting certain people, getting exposed to different audiences,
Yeah.
it's part of the industry, like building those relationships.
Yeah.
And Arya is stunning, by the way. And so just hearing,
Thank you.
it breaks my heart like that whole just racial dynamics where like you have to fit into this box to be
Yeah.
seen as these meet these beauty standards check
She
boxes.
don't
And it's
feel
just
like that
like
anymore, girl.
that girl is
I can't get
gorgeous.
her out the mirror now.
Okay. And I hear you, which is
Yeah.
there's it's so scary. Like, it's a sacrifice with anything you do, right? Like everything that you work for, there is something that you're pulling away from. And so I imagine that, like, hearing how you explain this, certain things are extremely important to you as a mother and, just for your family and what you want your girls to have and be able to look back and see. How do you, how do you make sure that like they have a normal childhood? How do you find balance in that they are in this kind of career, but also their children?
Yeah. What I was saying before, I just certain things are more important, and they're non-negotiable for me.
Mhm.
Um, like Arya needed to go out and play, or
Mhm.
Skylar has to go out and play. If she's gonna be on set for hours and hours and hours, bring your toys,
Yeah.
or when you have your break. Or also, um, one thing we really had to break out of, especially with the major productions, they serve you, like you're the star. Um, would you like to sit right here? Would you like something to eat? You want something to drink? And I'd be like,
Oh, yeah.
you could do that on set. All right. When you get home, you about to wash these dishes.
Right?
I don't care what movie you in. Okay.
Mhm.
So there nothing had changed. It was just like, and I don't think she looked at it. She looked at it as fun as well. Even though she knew it was a job, it was
Yeah.
serious. She had to be professional on set. She had to do certain things. It was fun for her. So nothing had really changed. We still, she did take most of her middle school career was online. But we
Wow.
would still do activities outside
Yeah.
of that. So she would still go to her acting classes if we were at home. Um, she would still be allowed to do other fun things. Like that's when TikTok, I feel like, first came out when she did Nickelodeon when she was like 12. And
Mhm.
she was obsessed. I was like, oh gosh, all the time you just watch people dance. And now I'm obsessed, which is funny. But she allowing her to do those things. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like she's always been an old soul because she was always with me. I taught college when she was first born. So my college students would babysit. I taught high school shortly after that. My high school students. So she's always been
Wow.
around older kids. So she's very mature.
Mhm.
Um, she's always been an old woman.
Mhm.
But the kid stuff, like now, um, there are a couple things that she turned down so she can just enjoy senior year. She can just enjoy being a high school student. And I just try my best to make sure that those things are non-negotiable. Like, she's not gonna be able to book anything during this time because she's gonna
Mhm.
be doing this summer program, you know. Um,
Nice.
and just it comes from like the values.
Mhm.
Just like I said, somebody was like, "Oh, Arya, you can just tell them to do it. Like, she gonna do it herself. It's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
I know that's what you're there for. We appreciate you, but she can clean up her own mess. You
Right.
can't. Don't come in here cleaning up for her, because
Yeah.
she needs to learn. So just little things like that. She's very humble. She
Mhm.
doesn't like now that she's in a brick and mortar school because I
Mm.
homeschooled her in 10th grade. So junior and senior year, she's been in a public school, and I was like, so did you tell anybody? She's like, I'm not telling anybody about my career. I don't. She created her own private Instagram page separately, so people can't,
Good.
but then
Yeah.
people find out, of
Right.
course, weeks or months later, and they're like, why you ain't tell me? She's like,
'Cause I
I
don't live
didn't
with
want
it.
I didn't want people, because we experienced that as well. People who wouldn't talk to her before, she on TV now is like, "Hey, are you remember me?"
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
no, not at all.
Right.
So yeah, just trying to make sure she stays grounded, but still allowing the opportunities to do the things that kids should do.
Yeah, I love that. Like, creating a solid identity
Mm.
and, remaining, like, humble, all of these things, because we see celebrities go through that where they're getting catered to, or they become, just really, like, in this space that feels untouchable,
Mm.
and, what I kinda notice is that, like, that happens in periods of time. You could get really lost in that.
Oh yeah.
Most of those people who go through that, who haven't actually went through their humility journey, end up eventually going through it. And so I love that you kind of want to keep her in this space of understanding, like, you're a human, you're a child, you deserve space, you deserve, these responsibilities. You need to be accountable, right? To
Mhm.
um, just being a good person. Outside of that, you are also a celebrity, and having an identity so you can understand what's real from what's not real, separate from Arya the celebrity and Skylar the celebrity. Like, the babies are over here just doing it big. But you
Yeah.
talk about so many branches of education. You had, they had online school, they had homeschool, they had
Mm.
physical school. What was navigating education like? And do you have advice for parents in similar situations?
Um, so if I could have homeschooled them their entire education career, I would have. I
Wow.
I only homeschooled 1 year, and it was because the year before, Arya's freshman year, um, she was doing High School Musical, the musical, the series on Disney Plus, but she was a guest star. So they would fly her out to LA. We'd stay for a week or so, and then they'd come back. And
Mhm,
then we'd fly out a couple weeks later, stay for a little while, and come back. And the school where she was, she would do her work. That was,
mhm,
you know, it's required now that she's SAG. It's
mhm.
required when she's on set. You have to have like 3 hours of school a day, and you have
Right.
to do your work. All of those things are required. But it was the logistical thing of her having so many absences, and the
Mhm.
state has to, and so it was just a lot. I think her school was patient with us. We had to write a lot of letters and emails and whatever. Um,
Yeah.
but just the hoops that you had to jump through. Um, Whereas you have kids who are missing school on purpose. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
missing school because
We
she's
got
working.
truancy stuff over here, but we
Yeah.
actually working.
So I was like, well, I everybody was nice and tried to show us grace, but just trying to deal with that was a lot. So I homeschooled her, all of them, during that
Mhm,
10th grade year. I took off from education. I took a break. Actually during COVID, like when COVID hit, um,
yeah.
her career just felt like it was a lot. On top of the fact that I teach elementary music, which means I teach the whole school, and
Mhm.
I worked in a county where they wanted me to continue to teach the whole school. with COVID being active, when people around me
Yeah.
are working digitally, I was like, yeah, maybe it's time for me to leave education so I can focus on the girls. Um, but yeah, when I homeschooled them, it was the best. Um, if we could have figured out how to keep it going financially, like one income, everything just kind of increasing, it was
Oh.
hard. Um, but I got to choose what they learned. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? I found an online program that they would get their academic courses from.
Mhm.
Um, I got to teach them music. I got to teach them about politics because a midterm election was happening. So they got to meet Stacey Abrams. We got to
Oh,
leave
wow.
and go to one of her rallies or whatever and signed her book. It was like and I was nervous, honestly. I was like, well, I'm scared to homeschool. What if I don't know? Because I don't like math. Like, what am
Right.
I supposed to
I
do?
know, right? Like, you kinda like the everything.
Yeah. But the online program would teach those things and then I could supplement what they weren't getting. But we could learn French, but we could also learn Spanish. We could learn like Skylar took an interest in coding. So I found an online coding program for her. And there are different platforms where people do a lot of things virtually, of course, since COVID. So we were able to do all kinds of things. And then we had homeschool meetups. So we met other homeschool parents because everybody talks about, well, they're not going to be social if they're at home. I'm like, they're more social now than they were before.
Oh,
Because we meet
wow.
a whole lot of people, we go a whole lot of different places. We were able to travel during the school year, which we weren't able to do before. It was just like it was such a great experience, and I wish I could have done that, but of course, bills need to be paid. Um, but for anybody in a situation with a kid in the industry specifically, if they can be homeschooled, I'd say go for it. Um, it does have to be very structured.
Mhm.
Um, there are so many different types of homeschool ways of homeschooling, but once you find your thing that works for your kid, it can be very beneficial. Um, Working as a public school educator, I just child, I I would go to homeschool in a heartbeat or online. And I love my job, but it's a lot. You can't control that on top of um the digital age of having easy access to everything. You can't teach your children what you want to teach them when you want to teach them because somebody else is going
Mm,
to tell them about it.
that's
They're
true.
going to see it on YouTube. It's going to pop up as an ad. And it's everywhere. Aria was a part of a performing ensemble, um, the Youth Ensemble of Atlanta, and
Mhm.
they tackle like really big issues and turn it into the performing arts. And one of it was like human trafficking. And
Oh,
she
wow.
told them, she was like, if you don't understand what that means, come and talk to us and we'll let you know. And Ari was like, no, I'm gonna go talk to my mom. Like
Aw.
I want it to come from her. She'll explain it to me. And so I've had to be forced to teach them things before I
Yeah.
feel like they needed to
Alrighty.
we don't need to talk about those
Yeah.
things right now. Not human trafficking, because I'm sure it's everywhere.
Right.
You need to know not to talk to strangers and not to get in the car. And you need to know those things. But now they can access everything
That's
all
so
the
true.
time whenever they want to. And in public schools, you can't control the conversations that they're around. You can't
Mhm.
control the subject matter that they're exposed to. And and also public schools are, um, everybody's so focused on data and testing and numbers and
Mhm.
all of these things, and grades.
Yeah.
The year before I homeschooled, Skylar was so anxious about her grades. Like it was sickening. And her teacher was cool. I have no problem with the teacher, but it was like, you got to get this or else and learn this. And she's just I feel like that's a big part of where a little of her anxiety came from. So when we
Yeah.
did homeschool, I was like, she was like, I got a D, and I didn't. It's fine. It's
Right.
okay if you
Yeah.
got a D. The
You're
D
learning.
shows me that these are the things that we need to work on. So let's
Mhm.
see what you get when we try it again. And so now grades are nothing, but grades don't have the stress that they had once before. Like she came home the other day, was like, "Mom, I got a 71, I think, on my
Mhm.
quiz. I know what I missed. I think I just I forgot that you're supposed to." And it was just, I'm not stressing about the thing because I know my mama not gonna trip. She knows that I tried my best, and that's enough.
Yeah.
So homeschool gave us that advantage. And I wish I could have kept going, but life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, she said so many really good things about. I've heard good stuff about homeschool before, but the way you broke it down, I thought was really helpful to hear because you're right. Like there's so much more social control you have when you homeschool and academic control. 'Cause a lot of people don't
Mhm,
understand like the way schools approach academics is sometimes questionable.
mhm. No, it is.
There's times I'm like, I don't know if they teaching this right because
Mhm.
I heard a different version of this story, right?
Yep.
And and that's usually like something that's connected to something bigger, and then we got politics and education now and all of that,
Mhm,
and so when you kind of go the homeschool route, that is not as big of a factor. You don't have to worry about what messages are being taught to them and
mhm.
infused in their daily experiences and everything, and so. I love that. I wish now I'm like, maybe
Let me consider.
let me think
Yeah, I
about it.
would've I wish I would've gotten that
Yeah.
bug earlier. Um,
Yeah.
I totally would've homeschooled Aria throughout middle school especially. Um, I was
You
thinking
guys are
about it with
also
Skylar because I was like, "Wait till she go to middle school. I think Imma just homeschool her because I don't do middle school." But,
mhm.
um, I get
I
it.
see you. You're like, I'm planning for it. It's
Yeah,
coming back.
I get it.
'Cause how old are the younger two?
11 and 8.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got a good time with them. And,
Mhm,
they're at that age to where, like, a lot of things are starting to be just more pronounced and
mhm.
abstract, and so, this is a really good time to kinda start sending some firm messages and
Oh,
how
yeah.
you want them to think and all of that. Middle school is just a
I
and
can't
getting
stand
close
it.
to middle school age is
I
just a
can't
really
stand it.
interesting time developmentally.
But I will say, Aria's I hate that she's my guinea pig, but, like, raising
The
Aria and
first
going
kid.
through first kid, going through those things and being like, "Huh, okay, so we wanna make sure we address this, we wanna do this differently." So
Mhm,
now, which I love to see, all of them are very well, Aria was in school with me in
mhm.
elementary. I was her music teacher for, like, 3 years,
Oh, wow, I did
and
not know that.
yeah, and so I would keep an eye out on her. The teachers would come to me if she act up, so she knew she couldn't. But I would also she was like, "So and so's my friend." I was like, "So and so better not be your friend. They don't do what they're supposed to do in class." And
Mhm.
so now,
Right, exactly.
I do the same thing with Skylar. Like I was Skylar's music teacher. I'm Kai's music teacher now.
Mhm,
Um, and so now they're all very particular about the friends or the company that they keep, which I wish I had that lesson when I was coming up. Like
right.
who you consider friends or best friends or whatever. But a lot of the conversations we have are, oh, well, so and so's not my friend anymore. He wasn't doing what he was supposed to do in class, and I don't want to be associated with that. And I
Yeah,
was like, well,
yeah.
good. You can still be cordial, of course, but you don't have to be friends with somebody whose values aren't in line with yours.
Mhm.
Um, and learning that early on, or how Arya maneuvers through girl drama, I was like, man, I wish I had that. I
Wow.
wish I mean, the way she talks about it, she was like, I said such and such and such, but I said that to her face as well. So when I was talking to so and so, I told her, don't bring that to me. Boom, 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 boom. And I was like,
Dang. Come on, girl, handle that
huh?
business.
You should do a class because I did not do that in
Uh-huh.
high school. I didn't do that in middle school. I didn't know how to handle the drama that
Yeah.
was girls. Like I didn't know how to handle that drama. And she manages it so well. Either,
Wow.
yeah, you can delete her off Instagram. We're not friends anymore. Um, I did try to talk to her. I tried to squash the situation, but I just think that we've outgrown each other. And
Dang,
what?
she mature. Come on,
Yeah,
girl.
she don't play when it comes to that stuff. I mean, there's still some things where she's a child, like truly a child. But I'm glad we've talked about relationships so much and how they can
Mhm,
affect who you are, and your reputation and
mhm.
person you want to be. And another thing about setting a good example, the people that we hang around, me and my husband, um, they're good people. They're respectful. Those are the friends that we associate ourselves with. Um,
Yeah.
I had a issue. Well, I had a friend who was my best friend in high school, and we had been friends for a really long time. And I truly just think we grew apart.
Mhm,
Um, I just like talked about my love language is changing. Like we're
mhm.
evolving. I'm not the same person I was 20 years ago. I'm not the same person I
Absolutely.
was a couple months ago.
Okay.
Um, Constantly changing
Evolving.
and growing,
Mhm.
and everybody's not. Even if you're not changing or evolving, everybody's not accepting when you're not the same person they
Yes.
met. And so I told, they asked like, why aren't you don't need to talk about her anymore? I was like, yeah, I think we just grew apart. And
Mhm,
personally, I don't want to, it got to a point where it was almost toxic. Um,
mhm.
and I was feeling bad because of how the friendship was going. And I was like, yeah, I wish her nothing but the best. I love her. If she needed anything from me, honestly, I would probably still help her.
Yeah.
But as far as friends and talking on the phone and hanging out, I can't, just
Yep.
like you don't associate yourself with people who you see if they're doing something that you don't
Mhm.
agree with.
Same
I had
thing.
to do the same thing. So they see us doing those things as well.
Right.
Um, Trying to make sure we set an example for how those relationships should happen or should go.
Yeah, modeling evolution. I love it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you said it because a lot of people don't change for that reason, like the fear of
Mm,
rejection or, not aligning socially. And, it's that whole values conflict thing. That's why I always talk about like values being so important because it helps give you a foundation and ground you to how you make decisions is based on who you are. And even as that evolves, you kind of go back to that. And a lot of people kind of resist, even if they know, like, I'm not quite feeling the same, they resist the changes and the work that it takes to move into those spaces. It's necessary. Pruning is necessary for growth.
yeah.
And a lot of times, especially when you're on a healing journey, that's how you know you're moving in through that healing journey is because those relationships are shifting. You're shifting, right? You're evolving, and it's not in a bad way.
Yeah.
Um, Everybody who's meant for you is not going to be on every part of your journey, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
So I love that you talk about that and you're just authentic too. I want to model that for my kids. It has not always been easy for me. I'm glad that I'm seeing one of my daughters at least go through that in a way that, I feel like she's doing it a little bit, better
Yeah.
than I was able to do. Like, I love the honesty there because
Yeah.
I know like feeling like, okay, I can't say this, but then feeling betrayed and feeling confused in friendships and just not knowing
Mhm.
how do you navigate that? Because at the end of the day, I got to go back to school and see these same people every day. And,
Mhm.
and it's connected usually to other social circles or other activities or events you're
Yep.
connected to. And at the end of the day, like you're not anchored to any of those kind of relationships. So it's okay to be able to say, let me take a step back. It doesn't mean you gotta destroy the relationship or do anything to create some drama. It just means that I'm not moving forward in that direction because that's just not just where I'm headed, what is
Yep.
important to me. That's okay.
Yep. Agreed.
And you speak about, just how important the way they navigate life, your children through the values that you guys have taught them. Imagine this is also showing up in how they are doing work, how they are selecting roles. How do you guys ensure that those family values are embedded in how they make choices in just the industry?
Well, yeah, it's a part of who they are now. Um,
Mhm.
so when you add the industry, or you add a school play, or you add musical theater at a local community theater, or you add gymnastics, or it doesn't matter what activity you add, these are the core values. These are the things you are going to do. It doesn't matter who you're around. It doesn't matter where you are. This is what's going to happen. These are the
Yeah,
people that you're going to be. Um, so the industry, it doesn't matter.
yeah.
You're going to do a good job. You're going to give 100% every time. You're going to be respectful.
Mhm.
Um, Skylar came home and was like, Mom, I got nominated for Student of the Month by 3 different teachers. And that never happens. I don't think that ever happens. Uh, I was like, but when she first started, she was she would greet people.
Mhm.
I hate it when a kid walks in front of me and just, or people in general, and don't speak.
Yeah, yeah,
If we're this close to each other, hey, how are you? Just
yeah.
a basic
Lord,
greeting. I can't stand it. Hey, how are you? And
I
they
know
just look at
California shocked you
you. Oh
because
yeah,
some
that's why I
folks
was
do
like, I don't
not
like it.
speak.
I don't like it. And I
I'm
was like,
like, how y'all just exist in the same spaces and
and
act
not
like,
say anything.
people don't are
It's
not there? Yeah.
crazy. So I stay on them about greeting people. Kai was she was a tough one. It took her a minute to get it, but like conversations on the phone. My
Mhm,
mom calls. She's like, "Hey Nana, how are you?" She'll say, "I'm fine, Kai. How you doing?"
mhm.
"I'm good. What are you doing?" And I was like, "You can't just sit on the phone. You can't just sit there and
Yeah.
hold it. You have to hold a conversation." So Skylar
Mhm,
goes to middle school where nobody talks to you. They don't say nothing in the hall. They're not gonna greet you. They're gonna look you up and down and still not say a word.
man.
And
Right?
Skylar's one of very few children that's like, "Good morning.
Yeah.
How you doing, Dr. Canterbury? How are you, Mr. Williams? Hey, how are you?" So now, excuse me, now she's setting herself up as this very mannerable child.
Mhm,
Everybody talks about it. She said, "I heard another teacher said to one of my, I guess my science teacher, she said, man, she's so mannerable." Like, it
right.
was a shock because
Yeah.
kids don't talk to you anymore. They don't greet you.
Mhm,
They don't, something as simple as good morning
mhm.
is like shocking for them. So those core values are non-negotiable. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care where you go. Everybody's always
Yeah,
saying the same thing. Your girls are so respectful.
that's so
She asked how
good.
my day was. People don't normally do that. And I was like, well, they don't
Mhm,
have a choice. That's what they're supposed to do. And I used to fight Aria tooth and nail to go up and spark a conversation with
mhm.
somebody. We'll be sitting in a place, maybe an audition room, and we're just really in close contact. And in audition rooms, it's slightly different because everybody's focused on getting
Mhm.
ready for the
Yeah.
audition. But like, something where, let's say you're on set and it's a group of kids. I'll
Mhm.
go over there and introduce yourself. I don't want to have to go over there. And you don't even have to have a full conversation, but
Yeah.
go over and say, "Hey, everybody, I'm Aria. How are you?" They don't have to respond. You can sit down. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But most of the time now she does it regularly. And
Yeah.
it immediately, you can see people's walls break down. Like they're like, "Oh, hey." She
Yep.
makes friends with all kinds of people, all ages, because she will speak. And it only
Yeah.
takes a good morning, or how you doing, or hi, my name's
Mhm.
Aria. It That's
Yeah.
all it takes. Um they come home, "Oh, I met a new friend." Well, she
Mhm.
was sitting by herself, so last thing, we were sitting at a nail
Mhm.
salon. Um I think I was waiting to be served, or I can't remember why I was sitting there, but I was sitting in the waiting area. the girl, Kai and Skylar, were sitting next to me, and there was a set of sisters that were sitting next to them. They were playing on their little tablet together, and Kai and Skylar were sitting there. And Skylar was like, Mommy, I think I'm going to say something. I said, you should
Yeah.
totally say something. You never know. You make a little friend. And they
Make a new
fought it. They
friend.
were like, what do I say? Just all you got to say is, hey, my name is Skylar. She's like, oh. It was scary at first. Like, I don't know. I don't want to say, I don't, whatever. And now, if we sitting close enough to each other,
We
I'm
gonna
going to
tell.
introduce
Yeah.
myself. Even
That's
Kai,
me.
we just, on the plane, how you doing? Is this business or pleasure?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, cause we can't sit for hours right next to each other and not say nothing. And
Mm-hmm.
just in case you crazy, I want to make sure you save me. All right. I need to know that, and it's nice to do. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, just
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
can make somebody's whole day.
Yeah.
So yeah, core values are non-negotiable. It doesn't matter whether it's the industry or wherever they go. They have to have those things in place.
Yeah. I love that. What a lot of people don't realize is so many things that we do in this world are relationship based.
Mm-hmm.
And doing just certain maintenance things or general gestures is so, so important in nurturing relationships, building relationships, treating people kindly, no matter what you heard about them, no matter, what you may have saw, just kind of being okay with like, I'm just going to respect you just because basic human compassion. I
Yep.
just respect people. You just never know how stuff circle back around. I've heard
Mm-hmm.
so many interesting stories. And at the very core, it don't even have to be a reason. The energy you put out is the energy you receive back. And so if you're, portraying and going out of your way to exhibit kindness, then you're setting yourself up for, things that are going to be connected to that kind of energy. And so I just love that you are helping your kids get out of their comfort zone of like, it's easier to sit here and not say something.
Mm-hmm.
Just go ahead and say it. Even if that's not what they do, that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And, you don't have to have too many feelings attached to it. You still did the right thing.
Yep.
Sometimes people remember you just from that nice thing. You don't know what kind of day people are having.
Yep.
And she came over there and spoke to me, and I just needed that. And so
Yep.
I love that.
Yep.
And you wear like a couple of hats for your children. Like you're not just a parent, but you also are a manager. You're an advocate. Like you're kind of like navigating a couple of spaces with them. How do you balance that, especially considering their careers and that they're your children?
Yeah. Well, because they're my children, you just, moms, we just get stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a need, I try to fill that need. I don't even think I look at it as balancing it
Mm-hmm.
because it feels like one big hat, kind of like a teacher. A
Yeah.
teacher wears a lot of hats. Like I'm a janitor, I'm a
Man.
therapist, I'm a mom to somebody else's kid. I'm
Mm-hmm.
a teacher as well. I'm a musician. I'm a, a auntie, you know what I'm saying, that they
Yes.
can
Yep.
confide in. I used to have a couch in my office when I taught high school, and every single time I was in my office, somebody was sitting on that couch. It felt like
Oh wow.
a
And they
psychiatrist.
needed it.
Yeah. And they would tell me things that they wouldn't feel comfortable telling their parents. And I would always, you eventually have to tell them, but try this or whatever and make sure you're whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't feel like it's a lot of different things that I'm balancing. I feel like it's in my job description. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
all the things that the girls need to have done, they just have to be done. I'm a
Yeah.
chauffeur, which I absolutely hate, or an Uber driver, I call myself. I
Mm-hmm.
hate driving everybody around because I spent so much time in the car. We recently moved closer to my job and the girls' schools. It's a little bit better because we don't spend all of our time in traffic, but it used
Mm-hmm.
to be like I just lived in the car
Yeah.
because I got to take you here, got to take you here, got to take you here. We have trays in my car now that the girls
Nice.
pull out because we got to eat in the car and they're messy. So
Oh
their
my gosh.
trays,
I need to invest in this. Share this
oh yeah,
knowledge with me.
listen to me. I can't stand. Well, I got a new car, which is one of my I'm a do
Mhm,
for myself kind of
mhm.
things. Um, and I had paid off the last one. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get the car that I want. I used to get cars
You
that
know what?
were the base model
Yeah,
because they were the cheapest ones,
mhm.
and it wouldn't have the power seats. It wouldn't have the
Right,
whatever.
push
You know what I'm
start.
saying? Push
Yeah,
start. And I was like, I'm going to get the car that I want, and we gonna have to
you
figure out
gotta
how to
do
pay
it.
for it. So in an effort to try to keep it clean, that's my self care. Like
Yeah, I need that.
I would like to drive in a clean car.
Yeah,
So they have these. I don't know how I found them on Amazon, but I was like car trays
okay,
for food.
thank you.
so that,
'Cause I'm
um,
like,
so they
because I'm
put
just
them
like,
on.
"Don't eat in the car," and then if they do, I
Yeah,
know I gotta get it vacuumed because it's,
yeah, it's everywhere.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, it was just I lost my train of thought. What was the question?
Oh, we just talking about, like, just
Oh, the hat.
being yeah, that
Um,
balance and trying to and
yeah,
you're like, it's just all together.
yeah. As a chauffeur, I know that this is what has to happen. As a I'm technically their music teacher, so trying to make sure they are where they need to be, so it makes their teacher's job easier.
Yeah,
Um, homework, you as a mom, you do it because it needs to be done. You don't
mhm,
look at it like, okay, I manage their career, but I also do it just it's all under the umbrella now.
yeah.
Um, so
It's
I just
awesome.
do my best to
To me,
get
that
me
makes it
on.
more natural though, because we've seen sometimes where people have to separate that out and how sometimes that backfires, especially on child careers where
Mm,
like as a manager, they had a separate manager, for example, like how those managers treat them. And then you're a mom and a manager. And so you're like, I kind of want you to always like know that I have your best interest in heart as your mother,
mm,
and then also I'm your manager and all of these other things because your values stay connected. Like you don't have to separate out who you are,
yeah.
and I don't have to separate out who I am, because now like if something is confused, I'm still always your mom first, right?
Oh
Type
yeah.
thing. Or if there's something I need to be able to check you on or support you on, like at the core, like how you talked about Aria coming wanting to come to you for the information that if you were in manager mode and you were separating that out, she might have been like, okay, I guess because I'm in this job space, I'm supposed to do it this. Nope. My
Mm,
mama will make sure I get that
yeah.
message
It's
and explain it to me the way I need it. And so I love that. I mean, I think that's super helpful. Just reducing the conflict and the confusion around, well, how should I approach this at all times?
hmm
At the core, this is who I am. And then all of these roles just naturally fall into that. As a mom, you are kind of everything.
yeah.
So I think that embodies that. But we have seen where people do that, where they'll like for their kids, like, well, I have to just make sure that you're the star. And it's just like, well, yes and no.
Yeah.
And how later that ends up becoming a conflict or
Yeah.
issue because they're like, well, now, I got to reel them back in, but they don't want to be real.
Now I will say use the term momager because that's just what it is.
Yeah.
But they have a manager, or Aria specifically has a
Oh,
manager.
okay.
So the business and logistical side of her being an actress, they handle that, and I feel like it happened shortly after Nickelodeon.
Okay.
Because I needed it. I don't know how
Yes.
to navigate this space, and I'm not going to try, but I manage everything else, like as far as the
Hmm.
your headshots and your resumes and your audition. I have been, I guess, somewhat of their acting coach since the beginning.
Hmm.
So making sure you're making good choices when you
Yeah.
submit your. So I do manage something, but as far as the industry is concerned, they have an amazing management team, and her
Mm,
agents are awesome as well. They're both in LA. Um, because when she signed with them, we were living in LA, but
yeah.
um, they do all the industry related logistical things, and I
Yeah.
don't know where we'd be without them. I feel like I do the mommy management of all the things that we've talked about, like keeping them
Yeah.
grounded, making sure she has the values, and how she's going to get to all these places. So yeah, it does take a team, and I didn't realize
Mm-hmm.
that early on. You can have a really, really good agent, but you also need a manager, especially
Mm.
when you're doing like major productions. She had a publicist who was amazing as well. I didn't realize. I was like, she don't need no publicist. She
Yeah,
good.
yeah, right.
But at the end of the day, you do.
You do.
You have to do all of the things to promote your projects, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to go out and make the connections, and that's what a publicist does, which goes back to earlier when it was like, you not getting paid what they
Right.
say,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
they
You gotta
quoted.
pay all these people.
You gotta pay everybody. The hair and makeup team when she has to go somewhere, the
Mhm.
clothes, because you can't wear the same thing twice, especially if you took
Oh my
pictures in them.
gosh.
Um,
Right?
so it became a lot. It was a
Yeah,
whole lot. We wouldn't have been successful at all without her team. Um,
I love that. I
but
love
yeah.
the message around have a team
Oh
because
yeah.
as much as we wanna like have everything and wear all the hats and stuff, there are people that are actually experts and trained and skilled at that. And it just frees you up to be more available to the things you are very good at, the things that you want to have space to think through. You
Hmm.
cannot do it all by yourself.
Yep.
And I love that. So when you say it that way, now I get it. You like, I don't even want to try to combine that. I want her to
Oh yeah.
have like the opportunities to really soar in this space by delegating some of this outside of me. Like there's things I hold down over here and there's things we have a team for that's gonna, just make
Hmm.
sure her career is intact. So I love that.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, you just had some like bomb dropping stuff. Can you please share with the people how they can find you if they have questions? If you just, they just want to see what's going on with you because I'm sure there's always just moving parts and you guys as a world and just with the girls and all of the things they're doing.
Yeah.
How can the people find you?
So I have shifted away from. I'm on all the platforms actually, but I've managed everybody else's platforms. I'm just
Gotcha.
now getting back into posting somewhat regularly. But my Instagram is at Brooks Arts Collective, BROOKSARTSCOLLECTIVE. And that's like a one-stop shop. That's where I send everybody. Um,
Nice.
and I am a conductor and an educator and a clinician, and I worked with
Mhm.
kids all over the state. Um, well, I guess now I'm not just Georgia, because I've been
Mhm.
invited to some other states to work with students, but dealing with the performing arts and
Mhm.
leadership and being good people.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I would say Brooks Arts Collective on Instagram.
Cool. Thank you so, so much for sharing this. Thank you to our guests for listening. I just want y'all to know she's sitting here calm, but she is a ball of energy and talent. And so please don't get it confused. Like all this stuff she said is that and plus all of the excellent things she is. Definitely share your feedback. I'm sure there was just a lot of just things that was helpful to hear and learning things today. And don't be selfish with the information. Share it with other people. So share this episode. There is a link. Share it, but definitely subscribe. Obviously, there's other videos, different topics, and so don't be afraid to check out other things. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and we will see you next time. Bye.